All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about my loser moment, what happened there. Basically, I've become very irritated and frustrated. I'm not even going to get into the emotional equivalence with me. Every time I say this, nobody believes me. But okay. So, anyway, I'm just getting sick of these stars using us, the losers. I'm obviously a loser. I'm a total bum right now. I've tried to escape the trash can multiple times and failed. The dumpster won. But anyway, what I was really saying about Johnny is that she's willing to hurt others to get fame, to get into the club, like so many others. And it's like, this is ridiculous. We're all getting like brain edits and brain death so that they can be famous. If it's so good, why don't they sell it? We're a capitalist. I don't understand. I didn't ask for it. I don't want free help from them. And because anytime a stranger comes up to you and says, I want to help you, you should run. You should also run if the government says that, but sometimes the government catches you and forces you to get help. I've had many such incidents. And yes, I'm crazy, but real things happen to me before, even still. Like, how do I explain this? Yeah, it's just like the two mixed and everything, and I had a lot of delirium with my head injury that they missed and everything else. Okay, well, anyway, I just want to say how ridiculous it is that they think there's going to be world peace. There will never be a world peace. We cycle. It's a very diverse planet with a lot of complex issues. You can't solve them just by being a mindless zombie and zapping people or cutting off, their prefrontal cortex. It's just not very nice. Okay, well, I'm going to talk a little bit about my schizophrenia lately. If you don't know, the worst part of schizophrenia is hearing voices. And it's very big pressure in your head to do what the voices say or to become totally warped. Okay, and that's different. And yes, they're inside your head. I'll get into sensory issues in a minute because that also plays a lot into schizophrenia as well as delirium. Okay, so here we go. When you hear voices and stuff in your head, they're part of your internal feed. However, they've separated the thoughts that are you between them. It's like having an imaginary virus in your head, making you do all sorts of things. Eventually, people start to withdraw and get paranoid, and then their inner dialogue gets all twisted and everything else. And that can also happen with anxiety. I honestly think that paranoid schizophrenics shouldn't be treated with antipsychotics, but they should be treated with anti-anxiety pills and sleeping pills until they get their body right. With schizophrenia, there's many things that happen, and sometimes people get confused between them. I certainly did for a while with the psychotronic stuff too, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to say that when you're schizophrenic, you don't always take care of yourself, especially if you're hearing voices and you're just stressed out or you've been dehumanized by your voices or whatever. And I haven't heard voices since 2013. So, yeah, I still talk to objects and stuff. I'm going to say that, anyway, yes, hearing voices is more severe than the other symptoms, but people don't take care of themselves, especially homeless people with schizophrenia, and they end up in cycles where they don't get enough sleep, they don't get enough to eat, they wander around for days, and they end up in delirium and then talking about these huge monsters jumping out of buildings. I mean, I think that's what causes a lot of, I don't know, just confusion and schizophrenia. They're like, oh, well, I see people. Like, I see all sorts of weird things. I obviously have some sensory issues that I've discovered. Like, with my brain, it's kind of almost like a computer. When it can't categorize something or it doesn't understand the visual interpretation, it'll morph into something else. And since I lost a lot of my language ability or, like diversity in thought, I don't know how to explain it. But I have that problem now. And it's not as bad as it was when I lived in the group home, because in the group home, my mind would tell me things and it wouldn't make sense with the objects I was seeing, and that really held me back. But I will say that voices, again, are the worst, and anybody who's actively hearing voices and is about to lose control, you should definitely get help, because they can take over your body and make you do things. Yes. I won't get into other things about that or, occult and all that crap that they're starting to do with us because they think it's fun. I'm in a game myself. I don't know if it'll ever end, if I'll have a satisfying ending, if it'll be positive or negative. I don't know. The world is not Hollywood. There's not always good endings or bad endings. Comedies and dramas, or tragedies, sorry. So, yeah. I have severe memory problems too, and that's another thing I'd like to get on about schizophrenia, is the memory problems. Okay, so when people think that schizophrenia is going to make them creative and, like different from everyone else, it's really not. claiming that you're schizophrenic is kind of like bragging about being retarded. I'm a very high functioning schizophrenic, and my IQ is 116 with severe memory problems and some weird subcortical nonsense. Basically, other stuff messed up with my brain. Sometimes I'm in pain, and I blame the weapons for that, especially, or my last, when I had that 8.5 months headache. Yeah, I'm sure I'm paying for that for the rest of my life, too. Yeah, that was from, I'm not going to get into it. So anyway, yeah, sensory issues can be a huge problem. Like, people walk through by me, and I don't know if it's the flickering of lights or anything else, but they'll warp, and it's really annoying. And I don't know, I've had those, how many years? I don't remember them ever before the Army. I mean, I saw things before, like more vivid and stuff when I was a kid, but I don't remember having misinterpretations until when the Army diagnosed me and when all that brain stuff started happening. Okay, well, on a lighter note, I'm in school. I'm taking a Introduction to Literature class, which is very nice. I've had classes above it. I've had classes, like composition and stuff, and I'm really happy that I was able to get into this English class, because at first I was like, oh, it's going to be so easy because I've had classes above it. But really, like, it confirms the basics of what I need to know in a way that's actually getting through to me so that I remember. Because when I was in higher up classes, I just, basically looked at it, context, and then sent it off. Like, this looks like an okay essay. Or then we had that one time when I had that PhD candidate as a teacher, and he wouldn't show me what an essay was that he wanted me to write. Like, he didn't give me an example, and then I was like, okay. And he would just grade all my papers with massive changes everywhere, like both grammatically and context. And it's like, why don't you just kick me out of your class next time that happens, buddy? Because I was obviously not ready for it. I did pass the class with a C+. Yeah, I don't know. That was being gracious. He kind of blamed himself, and he should. But I'm going to say that it took two to tango. And the university should also probably, I'm not giving advice to people because nobody wants advice, if they don't ask for it. But the university isn't listening to me anyway. So I would just say, to make it so you have to turn in papers. Like, if you have 6 months to do a self-paced class, you shouldn't be able to go more than X number of weeks without turning in the next assignment, because that really confused him about my writing. I will say the funny part, I went to tutoring. And when I gave that paper to him, like what the strong English students were doing, I got an even lower score. So I was like, hey, man, yeah, well, that puts it in perspective. It's all online school. That's what I say to people who, there's been some doctors I've had that were really bad. I'm like, online school, definitely. And I mean, I'm in online school with a community college right now, right? I can take one class at a time. It's hard for me to remember things. I have to work on it quite a bit to remember things. It's a very gentle class. Like, if you were taking it and you'd never had an English class before, it would be really difficult. But for someone who's had I don't want to say the basics, because that's what I said a minute ago. I'm not trying to thought screw up. I'm saying that it's like, if you are new to the subject of writing about literature, then it would be a very difficult course, because there's a lot of assignments and there's a lot of things to think about. Now, I have to do that anyway to a degree because of how slow I am. And I'm doing pretty well in the class. I have a 98% right now. I've gotten extra credit. She forgot to take points off for me turning something in late. I had a very nice classmate who was like, hey, Kaylee, did the wrong assignment. I was like, what? And I looked at it. Sorry about that. I know that was nasty. I don't care. I was itching and couldn't help it. She was like, yeah, well, and I was like, thanks. So I turned it in the next day. I did another analysis of something, and she forgot to take points off. She works really hard, and so, I'm not like her main priority, or, she knows everything about me. Not that I wouldn't spill my life story off to anyone. I've done it tons of times. Honestly, that's partially because people pick one thing to screw everything up. And there's a logic to my thinking and stuff, and I knew they wouldn't be able to. Like, the FBI can force me to say things, but they can't always change everything that I write. Like, one time they said that I didn't like people of ugly colors, and that really made me mad in my psych ward paper or whatever when they read it back. I don't remember how I got it, but I was like, I think they gave it to me at the end of the hospital stay or something. And it was because people were glowing different colors Like that was an example of delirium and schizophrenia because I hadn't been taking care of myself. I froze for 3 days in the bed, and I asked other people, like, when I go to the ward now, I'm not in a high security ward where these people would normally be, but when I was in the Army hospital, there were more severe people there, and they will freeze for a month, which can be terrible. So anyway, whatever, I froze in that hospital, and so I don't know what I'm talking about anymore, and I have no clue, but I did write down things. So yeah, I'm doing well in school, and it's helping me, and I've had some writings, but they weren't congruent. Like, there were things that were opposite of each other that didn't make sense. Like having people, well, I was trying to convey a person who had a very high education, not high education, but who educated herself, but due to life circumstances got stuck, working at some little deli store somewhere, and it didn't work out right. A lot of my papers don't. It's kind of like my artwork as a kid. I just do things that are strange or don't think about it, but I've been trying to work on my just everything. So eventually I'll read one of my stories on here. I'll try to figure out how to edit it. I don't think I can edit on the program that I have now. So anyway, I'm going to watch this and see what comes. I have no idea. Thought block. I'm not trying to show schizophrenia or make it look like, oh, I'm having an episode right now. I'm not. Just thought block. No. Oh, yeah. Okay.